July is Client Appreciation Month at Sport Clips Haircuts. Get a double MVP for the price of an MVP, or cool it down and try the MVP on ice. It's our way of saying thanks for all you do. Hurry, ends July 31st. Sport Clips. It's good to be a guy.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Greeny. Thank you for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. This is what we have for you on this Wednesday. Who makes the hashtag Rushmore 25, the best athletes in the world projecting forward who are currently 25 or younger? Plus, will PEDs affect Antonio Gates' chances of getting into the Hall of Fame? And the Orioles' Buck Showalter on the game's young stars and the growth of baseball players.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Back and better than ever on a new day. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. It's a Mount Rushmore day, and thus, by definition, it's a good day on Mike and Mike. Youth will be served, and with your help all morning. We'll set that up in just a couple of minutes. A quarterback lays a big hit on a defensive lineman. You don't see that every day. A Hall of Fame litmus test. Russell Wilson picks a strange topic to finally open up on. And J.J. Redick may need to just shut up. All that and a whole lot more in the hopper on this morning as we get set to hop a plane ourselves. Tomorrow after the show, we're on our way back to Cleveland.
Yeah, fun in Cleveland again, my hometown. That means the Golic brothers will be around again. We'll have some fun with that. And then we continue on to Cincinnati for the All-Star break, where we know the players that are in it, and we're finding out more and more of the players that will be in the Home Run Derby. We'll find out about Mike Trout today, but we'll get into that. So, yeah, a lot to look forward to coming up for the break.
We're touring the state of Ohio through this weekend. Not unlike a presidential candidate may.
That's my town.
Leading up to
my area.
Well, we'll be in Cleveland.
Right.
We'll do our annual show from Progressive Field Friday. I'm throwing out the first pitch Thursday night. Golic has begged off with an injury.
I haven't begged off anything. Listen.
I was in the room when the conversation took place.
I have injuries.
That was a begging off.
It's not the first time. I remember right after I had my shoulder scoped for the God knows how many times that was. I couldn't do it, so I caught for you at one. I don't remember what place it was. And this one, I have shoulder and I have elbow issues. I don't know I haven't bounced one in the last 5 times we've done it. I'm not red-braining anymore. I just can't do it.
Well, I will be. I have the great honor of throwing out the ceremonial first pitch Thursday night, and you will be my catcher. You're going to be my Pudge Rodriguez down there.
Okay, I don't really like that. I'm going to ask you, every single time you have made the throw, you've made it there. You have not overthrown. You've not sailed one. You don't throw with any speed. You kind of,
just throw it.
Yeah.
My goal is not to be, given a tryout.
Right. You're right.
I just want to throw the ball to the person behind the plate.
And you make it there. All I ask, don't short hop me. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do not short hop me.
Well,
because there's getting kicked in the ding-ding.
I understand.
And then there's a short hop where the ball comes up from underneath.
No, we all understand.
Guys.
No, you didn't need an explanation.
You know what I'm talking about.
This was something I understood before you started.
So that's my one real wish for you.
Mm-hmm. And my one piece of advice for you?
Yeah.
Wear a cup.
Okay.
All right, back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, quickly, Alex Rodriguez, we spent the beginning of yesterday's show talking about it not going to the All-Star game.
I'm a little disappointed. It would have been a lot of fun to represent the American League in Cincinnati, but I'm very happy for Betances and Tex. Very well deserving. They've had phenomenal first halves. I also think that Brett Gardner for sure is also an All-Star. For sure be voting for him, and he's been our catalyst all year.
So, yeah, that's right. You still have the players that you can vote for, and A-Rod is not on that list. Brett Gardner is.
Yeah.
He has no chance to make it, however, if history is any guide, because Mike Moustakas is a Kansas City Royal.
And if you're a Royal, you're going to get voted in. And we're not saying that in a negative way. Congrats all those fans getting out there and voting. But we both think Moustakas is the guy that's going to get in. And with A-Rod, I find a couple of interesting things. And we talked about this yesterday, from the fans not voting him in, the players not voting him in, Ned Yost not choosing him. I don't think there's any doubt there's some kickback when he sued everybody in the world. If he could have sued the fans, he probably would have done that as well, because that was kind of how that lawsuit went. But then all of yesterday, to me anyway, I just found some humor in hearing Ned Yost talk about strategy for an All-Star game. And God bless him, because he's trying to win that thing, because they were in the World Series last year and he'd like home field. So I understand it, certainly to a point, about strategy. But there shouldn't be. What other All-Star game Have you ever heard strategy being talked? And I'm not saying that in a good way. There shouldn't be. But there is, because there's that ridiculousness of what's riding on this game. So that added to yesterday, to me, just kind of really laughing at the whole situation.
Let me throw a different thought at you.
Okay.
If you've got the All-Star game throughout the overwhelming majority of its history was, besides the World Series, the only chance you would have to see the National Leaguers facing the American Leaguers. Mm-hmm. So, through my childhood, if you wanted to see,
right,
if in the year that Ron Guidry was the best pitcher in the American League in the late 70s, and I don't know, Johnny Bench in the National League was the best hitter.
Right.
I'm just making names up here. George Foster, whatever it was. If you wanted to see Ron Guidry face George Foster, the All-Star game was the one time you would get a chance to see that. That obviously is no longer the case. I believe there are 3 interleague series this weekend leading into the All-Star game, right? Mm-hmm. So clearly there's an interleague series going on every single day.
So that's gone away.
If you want to maintain any specialness to the All-Star game, then you have to add something to it, because
why? What specialness have they added to the NBA? We call that the best All-Star weekend out there.
Which one?
The NBA. What have they added to it?
Because they intrinsically play a different game. The NBA All-Stars in the All-Star game sort of let it go in a way that you can't kind of do in baseball. Baseball, they're just doing the same thing they otherwise do. There's nothing really different they can do. In hockey, I think they played a little differently. In football, I don't even know why they bother with it in football. In basketball, it's a nonstop flurry of alley-oop dunks and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, if you enjoy that, it's watching the best athletes in the world playing street ball, right? They might as well be out on West 4th Street just playing street ball. So there's at least something different about that, and there's just spectacular athleticism and everything else.
So we've changed that for maybe a guy coming up in the 9th inning to decide the home field World Series, and that player may be someone who had to be chosen to the All-Star game because every team has to be represented. Well, that makes sense.
Well, it wouldn't if they had put A-Rod on the team.
I'm sorry. You could try and sell it. I know you like the idea. We're never going to agree on that one. I do not think there should be anything riding on that. But to that, I kind of understand your point, but as usual, I'm going to disagree.
Well,
I'm wrong.
Okay, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now that's Progressive. 2 players at relatively opposite ends of the age spectrum hit home runs yesterday for the same team. Mike Trout and Albert Pujols homering for the Angels. Trout became the 9th player in baseball history with at least 120 homers before his 24th birthday, while Pujols hit his 26th home run, which is tied for the most home runs before the All-Star break by an Angels player in team history. Now, a couple of thoughts on these guys. Trout is going to take over the show this morning in a moment. Quickly on Pujols. Pujols has had a resurgence, right? It's like a renaissance.
Yes.
And it's a delight to see because he's a great player and he's a good guy. And from the moment he signed the huge contract and went to Anaheim, he just hasn't been the same player. And now all of a sudden, at least for these 2.5 months, he seems to be. He is going to participate in the Home Run Derby next Monday night. Now, as one who, A, enjoys the Home Run Derby, and B, whose job it was the last 2 years to be the in-stadium announcer for the Home Run Derby and thus had a vested interest in getting the crowd kind of jacked up and into it, I'm thrilled to see Pujols do it.
Agree.
Because he's a huge star that fans will be into. You want to see, it just is more interesting to see what Albert Pujols does in the Home Run Derby than it is to see what almost anyone else does. That said, here he is having this career renaissance. Patriot Ray sitting over there says to us before the show, your Pujols, you finally got your groove back. The Home Run Derby seems to very frequently take guys completely out of their mojo. If you're Albert Pujols, are you going out there on why is Albert Pujols going out there Monday night to be in the Home Run Derby?
I think some people, I think there are those players who have that in their head. And listen, I would need to talk to a hitter to understand what it actually does. Is part of it mental? How much of it is physical? Obviously, Albert Pujols doesn't think it's going to affect him. Do you think if it was real in his mind, he would go do this?
No, clearly not.
He wouldn't. So he doesn't think there's anything to it. So how much of it is mental, that it's just in your head, and how much of it is actually physical with your swing? So any guy that chooses to go into it obviously doesn't think it's going to affect him too much. So I don't know. I think it's a lot different than playing softball and doing a swing on a slow pitch softball.
Right.
And they're still throwing pitches. I know you're swinging harder.
It's just batting practice, but you're
exactly
swinging
right.
for the fences every single time.
Right.
Look, he's done it 3 times before. He knows what it is. By the way, he has never won the home run derby.
No, semifinals all the other times, I believe.
I believe that's right. Now, there's a whole new format now. So
there is. Now we're bracketing. It's time. I am very interested in this, and now it's a 5-minute time limit for each batter as opposed to 10 outs. So we'll see if it moves along at a better clip.
Whatever it is, finally he's back, and he's having himself a great year. He's hit 26 home runs, 56 ribs, and he's going to be in the home run derby Monday night. Good for him. We're told that we will find out today whether his teammate Mike Trout, and I'm going to sneeze, excuse me one second.
Yeah, Mike Trout deciding today whether he's going to be in the home run derby or not, and that would be another. We keep talking about big names. We talk about this with the slam dunk contest in the NBA, that even if 2 guys do the same dunk, for some reason it seems the bigger star does it. We're more entertained by that. So certainly Mike Trout in the home run derby would be a big plus.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned, he becomes the 9th player in history to hit 120 home runs before his 24th birthday. Andrew Jones hit 120 before his 24th birthday. Mike Trout has now hit 120. Mickey Mantle hit 121. So did Juan Gonzalez. A-Rod hit 128. Frank Robinson 130. Ken Griffey Jr. 132. Mel Ott and Eddie Matthews share the record for most home runs before their 24th birthday with 153. So Mike Trout isn't going to catch up to that.
No, he's not, because, by the way, he has just about a month before his birthday. August 7th is his birthday. So
August 7th.
August 7th.
The day after mine.
There you go.
So you can do a little shopping for both my birthday and Mike Trout's.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And he's turning 24?
He's turning 24, yes.
So he and I'm exactly double his age.
And just think, I can get gifts for both of you that incorporate the word Mike.
Exactly. That's, you know what? In fact, it could be Mike and Mike. I can think of a couple of things with that logo on it. Anyway, so Trout is turning 24, and he is obviously off to one of the great career starts of all time. And that got us to thinking. Actually, I'll give the credit to Hembo. Mm-hmm. It got Hembo to thinking.
Yes, it did.
It's been too long since we've done a good Mount Rushmore on this show.
Yep.
And we have a good one.
This is a good one.
This is a good one. We are going to use the hashtag this morning, Rushmore25. Rushmore25, because we are right now in an era in sports where we are overwhelmed with magnificent young athletes.
We just brought up the number. What was it? 18 players in the All-Star game that are 25 and under. Was that the number I believe we talked about yesterday?
I'm sorry, he's talking to me at the same time.
That we were talking about 18 players in this year's baseball All-Star game that are under 25.
That was the other thing. Yeah.
This kind of led to this. All the young, great talent out there, and how not just that are in the league, but are playing well at this point.
Exactly. So using the hashtag Rushmore25, we want to put together the Mount Rushmore of the best athletes right now in the world who are 25 and under. Now, we did a little research so we can get ourselves started a little bit. And we go through all the different sports here, but we're going to need your help.
And just in case you're wondering, Mount Rushmore has 4 heads on.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay?
Did that need to be said?
Well, yes. I think we need to lay everything out there.
Have you ever been to Mount Rushmore, by the way?
I have not.
I was there
I would
once.
like to.
One time.
Was it really
Team
cool?
tour. Yeah, it's great. I was on a team tour.
That team tour went everywhere. I find it
We went
interesting
4 weeks in the West.
When you went on this team tour, that it seems to me, there were stops in Bolivia.
No, we didn't make it to Bolivia. We did make it to South Dakota, by the way.
You did?
Yes.
Was this before or after? Was the kid already go home who fused himself into
That was the first night.
Okay, so he was gone quick.
He never made it out of Bryce Canyon, Colorado. I should tell the story since you mentioned it very quickly.
Yes.
The very first day of the teen tour. So the teen tour basically is they take a bunch of kids from New York and they fly them out west against their will, and we and we spend 4 weeks living in tents, which is a living hell, traveling around, just sort of experiencing life outside of Bleecker Street and LaGuardia Place, which is where I grew up. And so the very first night that you fly into Denver, I think there were like 20 of us. And we set up tents, and it's pouring rain.
Yeah.
Pouring rain. We're in Bryce Canyon, Colorado, and we're tired and we're scared, right? I mean, I'm 15 years old. I've never slept outdoors in my entire life. I'm with a bunch of strangers. I don't know what the heck is going on. And so we set up the tents, and it's like leaking a little bit into the tent.
Right.
So they give us these huge, hefty trash bags. We have sleeping bags to sleep in. And they give us these huge, hefty trash bags, and they tell us put the sleeping bag inside the trash bag so in case it rains, you don't get wet. I am awakened early in the morning by the sound of shrieking coming from somewhere inside the tent. I was like, 8 people sleep in a tent or whatever it is. And there's like just this like high-pitched shrieking coming from inside my tent from a total stranger, some other 15-year-old kid, who has, for reasons known only to him, put himself into the hefty bag and then that into the sleeping bag. Yeah. While he was sleeping, he sweated. It fused to his skin. They had to bring a helicopter and helivac him out of Bryce Canyon. To this day, I have no idea what ever became of him.
There's part of me that thinks he did that on purpose to get out.
Listen, it's so good for God bless him.
Probably about halfway through the trip, you thought I should have done the same thing.
It was a wise move on his part.
I'm sorry, I made us digress.
Summer of '83. But anyway, so I've been to Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore has 4 faces on it.
4, so you get 4 names to pick.
4 names of greatest athletes, the best athletes, 25 and under. But here's the caveat, because I don't want this just to be about who are the 4 best players 25 and under right now.
We don't want to do that, no.
I want to spin this forward. So here's what I want to do. When we are all together, and I'm sure we will be, 10 years from today, so in the year 2025.
2025, when it's 6 a.m. Eastern, Greeny is saying we're back and better than ever.
Back and better than ever. And again, that's where Rushmore 25 fits in as well. Rushmore 25, because we'll be having this conversation in the year 2025. Right. Who will we say are the Mount Rushmore of athletes who are playing today, who are 25 and under?
So that's the Rushmore we're looking for. Of the 4 25 and unders that you think 10 years from now will have stood out the most in their sport.
Who's going to have the best career? Here are just some of the names that came to us, and we got a little work done on these guys. In the National Football League, we have 2 names that we think stand at the top of the list. One is Andrew Luck, who is 25. The next is Odell Beckham Jr., who is 22. Some other names that you might want to consider: Le'Veon Bell is 23, Luke Kuechly is 24, Patrick Peterson is 24. Maybe you have other ideas.
Exactly.
Next in the NBA. Anthony Davis is 22 years old. Anthony Davis may be on his way to being the best player in the NBA. He may not be.
Right.
That's up to you. James Harden is 25. Kyrie Irving is 23. Damian Lillard is 24. Andrew Wiggins is 20. Kawhi Leonard is 24. John Wall is 24. Maybe you're a particular fan of Karl Anthony Towns, or Willie Cauley-Stein, or someone else who's come into the NBA this year. Who's it going to be? Baseball, there are 2 that sort of jump out at you. Mike Trout and Bryce Harper, who obviously are off to magnificent starts in their career, but they're not alone.
23 and 22.
Madison Bumgarner is 25. Yeah. Giancarlo Stanton is 25. Chris Bryant is 23. Right. Who do you think is going to wind up being the one who stands alone? National Hockey League, Steven Stamkos is 25. Led the NHL in goals as a 19 and a 21-year-old. There are other names out there, including this kid that just got drafted that everyone is all excited about. Golf, Jordan Spieth is 21. Is he on his way to being an immortal? 10 years from now, will he have a dozen majors? Rory McIlroy, by the way, just misses the cut.
Right.
And then there are other names out there that you might want to throw into all of this. Joey Logano from NASCAR. Who else? Neymar from the world of soccer. Morgan Bryan is 22. Julie Johnston is 23 from the women's soccer that we just watched. And, of course, there are any number of other athletes out there that you might want to choose from and you might want to pick. So let's get this going. Let's use the hashtag Rushmore25. Who do you believe will be on the Mount Rushmore 10 years from now of athletes who are currently 25 and under? I would submit for you my first name, the first one that I think is a mortal lock.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
Anthony Davis.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would put him as he's my George Washington.
It's tough for me not to go there, even though all this talk of the game changing a bit and the big man being out, he's a different big man. That's the normal big man may be being pushed to the side in the NBA, but the athletic big man, or every now and then you get one like this that isn't. So I'm with you. I see him on a track for unbelievable stardom. So I think he's. We got a long way to go. We can be talked out of it. So don't just give us names. Give us your reasons why as well, so we can have a really good discussion on why you think 10 years from now they'll be that way. But it's hard not to that first name to jump out being Anthony Davis.
Mike and Mike is brought to you by Castrol GTX Magnatech Motor Oil with intelligent molecules that cling to your engine to protect from the start. Castrol GTX Magnatech, a proud sponsor of our live coverage of the 2015 Baseball All-Star Game beginning Monday. Couple of thoughts. By the way, let's get chatter going on this as well. This may be a good one for some phone calls. Chatter line 740-535-MIKE. at 740-535-6453. Give us someone or someones that you believe belongs on this Rushmore 25, hashtag Rushmore 25 list. I'm a little hesitant, as much as a huge fan of Andrew Luck, I'm a little hesitant to put a football player on the list because injury is so much a bigger factor there than all the other sports combined.
Absolutely, without question. I mean, he seems to be on that trek, but I'm with you. That's a concern. So
baseball narrowing it to 4. Are you going to go Trout or Harper? Who's going to have the better career, Mike Trout or Bryce Harper?
If I had to pick right now, I'd say Trout.
Boy, I mean, Harper, what a season Bryce Harper is.
Incredible season. Trout has put a couple together, but they're so young. I mean, they're 23 and 22 years old.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and there's a bunch of other kids. Is Chris Bryant about to become Mike Schmidt? So I mean, all
these youngsters that have come up in baseball this year, they're playing great. Josh Peterson.
Is Giancarlo Stanton going to wind up hitting 500, 600 home runs if he could ever stay healthy? Obviously, injury has been a concern there.
Would you say
Jordan Spieth?
Would you say right off the bat, and just thinking about it again, this is all just initial, that baseball could have the most candidates here?
Well, it could. I think basketball has some pretty good candidates as well. I mean,
I'm just thinking even beyond the list that we have of some of the other youngsters in baseball that have just been playing so well right out of the gate.
Baseball is a wash in young stars.
So we are spinning it forward. That's what makes this. It's not. That's why, again, let's reiterate. It's not picking the Mount Rushmore of 25 and under right now. You have to spin this forward. And when we're doing our show 10 years from now, we need to that's the list we're looking for. Who do you think 10 years from now of these 25 and under athletes will be on that Mount Rushmore?
Who's going to have the best career?
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Guys, at Sport Clips Haircuts, we appreciate everything you do. So this month, we're giving you double the Sport Clips MVP experience for the price of a single. It's the Sport Clips Instant Replay. After your haircut, go into overtime on our legendary hot towel treatment. Enjoy a double header of our massaging shampoo and soothing scalp treatment. And beat the heat with our new MVP on ice. Our legendary hot towel becomes the refreshing chilled towel at no extra charge. Sport Clips, it's good to be a guy.
The best of Mike and Mike.
An interesting litmus test may be on the way for the National Football League, based on news from last week. Now, let's start with this. Shannon Sharp, who was in the Hall of Fame, was on Sirius XM NFL radio talking about Antonio Gates. When all those players got suspended last week, only Antonio Gates was suspended for use of performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
He says it was for using a substance that he did not know was against the rules. He swears he wasn't doing anything wrong. Whatever the case is, he's going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season. Shannon Sharp, questionable.
It makes you call into question everything that he's ever accomplished. Because and it's kind of like, if he does it in the beginning of his career, because he was an undrafted free agent, people are going to say he did it to get into the league. Now he did it year 13, year 14, people are going to say he did it to remain in the league. And it does. It makes you question everything someone has ever accomplished.
Makes you question everything someone has ever accomplished.
And let's put out there quickly that Gates is 27 receptions behind Sharp for third on the all-time list, 46 receiving yards behind Sharp for third on the all-time list. So he's looking to pass Shannon Sharp in a couple of categories there. And Gates' next receiving touchdown will make him only the second tight end all-time with 100 receiving touchdowns by a tight end, the other being Tony Gonzalez. So he is a guy statistically that is going to basically walk into the Hall of Fame.
So does this create the first real litmus test of its kind for pro football? In baseball, he would not get into the Hall of Fame. No chance.
Nope.
Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens is not in the Hall of Fame. They are each respectively at their own positions amongst the very, 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 very elite players of all time. And neither of them are in the Hall of Fame, nor do they, anytime in the foreseeable future, figure to sniff it. Does Antonio Gates get in the Hall of Fame?
I think he does. I mean, again, this comes down to voters. It's not a fan vote to get into the Hall of Fame. And we even wonder if it were a fan vote in baseball, would this whole thing be reversed and would these players be in? This comes down to voters again. I don't think the voters will keep him out. I don't think, just from the reaction to the PED users in the NFL, certainly by fans, but again, they don't vote, and others, it's more of he got caught, served his 4 games, when's he coming back type of a situation. But like you said, they've never been in this situation before, and it certainly will be a point of contention. At the end, do I think it keeps him out? No. Well, I don't know, is he a lock first ballot Hall of Famer?
I don't know that he was that anyway.
I don't think he was that anyway, so he may not get in right away, but I don't know how much that would have to do with, well, we're going to hold him out a little bit because of the PED situation. But overall, I do not think it affects him. He will get into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I think it's also one of the tests of this thing is the question of whether you believe him or not. In baseball, they clearly don't believe a lot of guys who say they didn't do it on purpose, and frankly, in many cases, not believing them has proven to be the correct thing to do.
Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests, like Buck Showalter, our old pal, will be on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline in about a half hour from now. Go through a whole bunch of baseball with him. He's in a jam-packed division, that American League East, as we head to the All-Star break. We had some insight from Ken Rosenthal a little earlier this morning on trade deadline stuff, Mike, as we get closer and closer. That All-Star game always means trade deadline right around the corner. And the two big names out there, Johnny Cueto pitched a great game last night. He's going to be a difference maker for somebody. And then Cole Hamels, who we've been waiting what feels like forever.
Forever for him to be traded, and there'll be a difference there. Cueto is more a rent-a-player. Hamels you'll have for more time, so that would mean you have to give up a different amount for both. So it will be interesting to see who goes where.
And then I'm going to read one here that's going to make you mad.
Okay.
Just because I know how much you love swimming. Hashtag Rushmore25 has been trending all morning long. The Mount Rushmore of athletes who are currently 25 or younger, projecting them forward 10 years from now. So when we're in the year 2025, who will we say were the four best? The Mount Rushmore worthy athletes of any of either gender, any sport, any nationality. Mark tweets, I don't think Missy Franklin would make this list, and here's why. If we did the same thing right now for the past 10 years, would Serena Williams make the list? I don't think most people would have her on their Mount Rushmore with other athletes like Brady, LeBron, Duncan Manning, Kobe, Jeter, Tiger Woods. Missy Franklin is great, but her resume doesn't compare, won't be able to top Serena's. No way a swimmer makes the Mount Rushmore
Couldn't
list.
disagree more. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
First of all, you're actually making this about the fact that they're women, not about the fact that she's a swimmer.
Why wouldn't Serena have fit into this conversation?
I think she is. I think Serena would go.
It's a joke to
how
think
much
she
of
would
what
know.
she's won has been in the last. If we're going to do it 10 years in a run,
right?
Because Serena started winning majors earlier in 2005. She's 33.
33.
But I would say Serena would have to be right there.
Without question.
I don't think Tiger Woods makes it. Most of Tiger's majors were more than 10 years ago. If you were going to go from 2005 to today, I don't think Tiger Woods makes it. Serena started winning majors. Her first major was in 99. She won the U.S. Open. She won 3 majors in 2002.
So we're looking from 2005. 1,
from
2,
5
3,
on.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13 majors in the last 10 years.
I mean, come on. She would absolutely be in that conversation. And not only, quite honestly, and for the swimming world out there, and others may not know the name so much, I keep saying Missy Franklin. I have to give some love for Katie Ledecky. She's 18 years old. She won gold at 15 in the last Olympics in the 800-meter free. She owns world records in the 4, the 8, the 1,500 free. And then in the 500 and 1650 in yards, she is a dominant, more distance swimmer, does do the 200 free as well, but more of a distance swimmer, 2 years younger than Missy Franklin, and been the swimmer of the year for a couple of years already. So quite honestly, she would fit in this category as well, but not many are going to know her name as compared to Missy Franklin's name. But quite honestly, Katie Ledecky deserves just as much consideration for what her accomplishments have been with
See, that's going to change my opinion on Franklin. I mean, I defer to you on the swimming.
Well,
I was under the impression that Missy Franklin was like trending towards being the most dominant female swimmer ever, and it wasn't close.
I think to this point, now Missy's a couple years older. You read some of her stats. I think she's been unbelievably accomplished up to this point already. Katie Ledecky got into her first Olympics, I believe, at 15. She's 18 now. So she, as I said, 3 world records right now in the 4, the 8, and the 1,500 in long course, which is what international swim and Olympic swimming is. And she's very dominant in those events, where Missy is dominant in other events.
Well, Michael Phelps dominated every event, right?
He did.
Again, I defer to you on this.
Missy can be more dominant in a greater area of events.
But
Katie
someone is on her level? If someone is on her level, that's going to change my opinion. Because I will say this, if you're going to be a swimmer and you're going to make this list, you got to just stand alone. Like Michael Phelps, no one even touches him.
I think from what Michael Phelps did with golds and Olympic medals, I think Missy Franklin will be there. Yes. I think Katie Ledecky is fantastic, and I think she is absolutely going to win her share, and the reason why, she's going to be in different events than Missy, so she'll be able to win her share. But she's a distance freestyler, where Missy does, as like Michael Phelps, more different strokes. 200
there are
free, 200
people
back,
who are
100
competing
back,
on a sort of equal playing field with Phelps in other events right now. I feel like he's the only
right
name
now?
over here. Well, I don't mean right now. At his apex in 2012 when he won all those goals.
At his apex, I mean, listen, he was obviously winning goals and setting world records. But remember, you're not blowing everybody out of the water. You're winning by a comfortable.
No, but he won everything.
He won everything.
He won the gold medal in everything he entered.
Listen, I don't know if Missy's going to do that. I think she has the ability to win everything, but that's a tall order. There's no doubt about it.
I get it. But is she going to be dominant the way he's dominant?
She is what
I'm asking.
I think she is, is absolutely going to be dominant.
Because the other guy, whose name just jumped out of my head, the other American male swimmer who's got sort of a
Ryan Lochte,
a little bit of a loopy personality.
Ryan Lochte,
No one compares him to Phelps, right? I mean, he's great, but he's not like him.
Compete against one another. They go back and forth on beating one another. But Ryan Lochte, he's older as well, like Phelps. So Ryan Lochte is not going to come close to the.
But what I'm talking about is if you look back in the last 10 years, Michael Phelps dominated. Michael Phelps. 10 years from now, you're going to say Missy Franklin. But you may say Katie Ledecky as well in different events. All right, that's going to change my view here a little bit. I'm going to you as my swimming expert, and that might change my view. It really might, because you got to if you're going to be in that kind of a sport, you got to stand alone. That may open up a spot for Jordan Spieth.
But what's interesting is it won't be her fault why she wouldn't. I think she'll be the best.
It's not a question of fault. You're either dominant or you're not.
She will be dominant in the event she swims, and what she's going to garner, I think, as far as awards, she's going to be dominant. She's going to be the most dominant. But there is a girl in other events, in Katie Ledecky, is going to dominate those events. But Missy and her are, outside of maybe the 200, the crossover free, they're not going to cross over in anything.
All right, now you've just muddied my waters.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go Anthony Davis. I'm going to go Andrew Luck. I think Andrew Luck is going to be one of the greatest. I think he's going to be a guy we're going to look back on 10 years from now, and we're going to talk about him with Peyton and Brady and Unitas and all. I think he's going to be that good. I think I'm going to put Andrew Luck in there. And then I got to pick one of the baseball players. And just to be different, I think I'm leaning towards taking Bryce Harper. I've got enough body of work there. I mean, I love Chris Bryant. I love Carlos Correa. I love all these guys. Just came up this year. But, I mean, you got to see them do it for more than a month or two, don't you? Don't you have to see it for more than a month?
No, you don't. No, you do not.
A month? Based on a month?
No, you don't. You absolutely do not. This is all about projection forward. That's what it is.
I know.
No, you don't. Don't start making your rules for what everybody else wants to do.
I can pick whoever I want based on whoever I want.
I know, but you don't have to rip my rule.
Well,
the reason I'm picking something.
Your rules stink. All right, Mike and Mike, we're presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. Keep those coming. There's two things we haven't gotten in at all today yet, Mike, that I really wanted to make sure we mentioned. And let me get some of those. First off, I want to know what you think of this. J.J. Redick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
J.J. Redick of the Clippers. He was on, where was he? He was on Sirius XM Bleacher Report Radio. And obviously the Clippers have had a tough offseason. They didn't have any money to add anybody, and they lost DeAndre Jordan. So they've taken, a hit. But do you want a player on your team saying what J.J. Redick, a Clipper, said, again, on Sirius XM Bleacher Report Radio?
We had one priority.
The question is, what grade do you give your offseason? How would you grade the Clippers offseason? He says F.
We had one priority this summer, and that was to re-sign DJ, and we missed out on that. So, barring some miracle, our makeup of our team is completely different now. He was such an integral part of what we did, not just defensively, but offensively with his screening, his rolling, his offensive rebounds. His presence down low essentially made teams either commit to the three-point line when Blake or Chris penetrated, or commit to him, and that either opened up lobs for him or threes for guys like me and Jamal and Matt. So he was a huge part of what we did.
and missing out and having him leave for Dallas gives us a feeling great.
Let me ask the question. Yeah. Whatever happened to, well, he was a great part of what we did here, but, we got to just go on with the guys that we've got. And
listen, you know how I'm going to answer this.
Yeah.
You know I can't stand when players do something like that. I mean, the majority of that answer was just fine. You were talking about what he brought to you, what you're going to miss without him there. You don't need that last part. I mean, plus, in free agency, you can only do so much to keep a guy. They can offer him more money, which they're able to do. You can sell them the best way you want to sell them on staying on the team. But in the end, he's going to make his decision. This was a guy who wanted to be more part of an offense. And it wasn't going to happen. Were the Clippers supposed to promise him that? Were they supposed to say, yeah, we know we have these other scores, but we're going to guarantee you, 20 shots a game? I mean, it's ridiculous to say, but I'm saying it to make it sound ridiculous. What else could they do to try and keep him? You can only do so much, and you can only explain your position so much to a player that wants to do something that your team can't offer. And that's for him to be the top go-to guy or the next go-to guy. And that's what now, there are those that feel he can do it and those that feel he can't. But for this decision, the most important person to feel that way is him, that he feels he can do it and he wants the opportunity to do it, so that's somewhere else. You know how I'm going to answer that. You can talk about that and then say, we have to fill the hole. We're probably not a better team right off the bat without him. But to say, you don't need to go that far. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. But it's certainly something, in my opinion, doesn't need to be said.
Now, we all know, anyone who was anywhere around social media yesterday, where Chris Paul is. Mm-hmm. He's hanging out with LeBron and Carmelo and Dwayne Wade, drinking red wine from beautiful-looking glasses. Did you see that? What a picture. What a picture. Did you see the picture?
No, I didn't see the picture.
Oh, you haven't seen the picture
before?
I haven't. Then? My goodness. All right.
With beautiful glasses?
Ray will get that
that's
for
what you took from the picture?
Yes.
They were drinking wine from beautiful glasses.
It just looked like a very, very nice picture. I mean, they just looked like they were having a delightful time.
Which is interesting. One of the best pictures I've seen is me taking, using a beer bong to down a beer.
No.
So it wouldn't be like that?
This is the picture on the banana boat. That's not what I'm talking about. There's a picture of the four of them on what looks like a yacht. Not looks like a yacht. It clearly is
a yacht.
It's a yacht.
Yeah. Who do you think sprung for that deal?
Any of them?
Any of them? You think they split it?
That's one of those where they play credit card roulette at the end of the yacht ride. Who's got this one? What did the yacht come to? $230,000. Yeah. All right, guys, everyone throw in a credit card, and the waiter will pick one. But that was a beautiful picture of the four.
Okay.
Whatever. The point is,
all right, go ahead.
If Chris Paul had said that,
no, I don't want anybody. I don't care who it is.
No, but would it be a bigger deal? Like, people aren't going to make that big a deal out of something that J.J. Redick said. But are they going to make?
Probably,
yes. At some point, Chris Paul is going to have to comment on DeAndre Jordan leaving, because every story that came out was that DeAndre Jordan left because he didn't like playing with Chris Paul.
Right. Yes, there would be more to it just for that factor alone, in the anticipation of what CP3 is going to say, because that was a considered clash there. So, they'll pay more attention to it, and hopefully he won't say something like that either.
There's the picture.
They look like wine glasses.
Nice wine glasses.
What looks different about them than another wine glass?
I can't explain.
I have glasses in my thing at home that look like that. They may not be made out of the same thing, but they look like that.
It's a picture. It's Dwayne Wade. For those who haven't seen it, I'll describe it for you. It's Dwayne Wade from left to right. Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, and LeBron James clinking their glasses together in a toast. You can only wonder to what. I guess to living life about as well as life can possibly be lived. to being ridiculously young, ridiculously in shape, ridiculously rich, ridiculously famous, and all the other things that they ridiculously are. And they're having a drink. Yeah, there seems to be a hot tub behind them. Now that I look at it, I mean, that's just a great looking picture. Remember that? What was the beer they used to have in the commercial when we were kids? It just doesn't get any better than this. What was you know what beer I'm talking about?
I don't know that.
But you remember it, right? You remember the commercial?
Yeah. I mean,
it just doesn't get any better than this. I forget what it was. It was for a beer. Well, they should replace that with these four guys sitting there. It
doesn't get much better than that. You're right about that.
The beer was Meisterbrow.
Ooh.
Why do you say ooh?
Meisterbrow. I thought it was tonight. Let it be Lowenbrow. I thought
Lowenbrow's. Yeah, that was. Here's to good friends tonight is kind of special. Yeah. The beer will pour must say something more somehow.
So you just change the word. The wine will pour.
The wine will pour.
Some kind of Pinot Grigio or something.
Yes, it's a Pinot Grigio. Very well said. All right. Anyway, so J.J. Redick, at some point, someone needs to say, "Hey, J.J., back up a little bit
Yeah.
on this here.
Yeah.
You know, we got another season to play ahead of us.
Exactly.
We're not giving up because DeAndre left.
I agree. You know exactly where I was going to go with that.
Next one, speaking of LeBron James. Amin El Hassan, our front office insider, was on the Russillo show here on ESPN Radio yesterday. And we've all looked at LeBron James sort of sitting from afar, drinking wine with his friends, and not yet signing to come back to Cleveland, while everyone knows he's going to. And we basically have attributed this to putting pressure on the organization to make sure that all the people he wants around him are back. And they've done an unbelievable job, right? I mean, A++++. If the Clippers get an F, then they get an A+. They've brought back everybody. They spent the money on Love. They went out and got this one and that one. They're looking absolutely loaded. But Amin El Hassan suggests that this may be about something a little more than that. And if so, he has a problem with it. Let's give a listen.
He's being abusive in his power in the sense that I'm not going to sign it till Tristan signs. And that's not about the kindness of his dumb old heart. That's about we have the same agent. And to me, it feels like there are other motives other than we need to have the best team possible. If he's doing this so that they do the Joe Johnson deal, I'm cool with that. He's earned the right to have the power to say, let's get the best team on the floor that we can. But if it's because I want my agent to be, I want our side business, our side hustle to be happy, that he's overstepping his bounds.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, but his side hustle to get Tristan Thompson signed, it wasn't I think whether LeBron didn't opt out because everybody thinks, he could sit there and put pressure on a team, which I don't put as much stock in as everybody else, because if Cleveland wasn't going to try and build the best team possible, then they should just disband, because this is their chance to win. So I had to believe David Griffin. We've been singing his praises all year, the GM, for what he had done during the year. To think they weren't going to try and put the best team possible, and without LeBron even talking about power and all that, wouldn't that have been Tristan Thompson getting re-signed? Is there anybody out there that wouldn't think that's something they should do? Correct?
Yes, I mean, I think it's something they need to do, but let's go to the bigger question. Let's say he is doing what Amin El Hassan is suggesting he's doing.
Don't care. Listen.
Would that be an abusive situation?
Don't care. Don't care. Horses out of the barn. You're giving guys this money, this power to pick coaches at times. This is where we are. It's much like I talk about in the NFL with the contracts. These long-term contracts, you're not seeing the end of it, so players after a couple of years are going to hold out. They're all sleeping in their bed because that's the one they made. Welcome to the NBA bed. If a player has power and he has some leverage and he wants to use it, use it.
But to use it for that is something else, right? If he's using it for...
I get what you're saying, but what doesn't sway me much on this is it's a guy it's a guy you want on the team. If it was a guy, the 12th man in the rotation, and you want to give him a deal that's out of whack with everybody else's deal for that, I would have more of an issue. And again, this is his thought process. I mean, it's a thought process. We don't know if it's fact or not.
No. But it doesn't sound like he knows it. No. He's suggesting that it's a possibility.
But to me, it's about a player they already want to re-sign. So I don't have an issue with that.
If that's the case, then he wouldn't have to do it in the first place.
That's exactly right.
So, but the larger question is, if you have a person who is interested in something besides the winning and has the ability to exert that kind of pressure on an organization,
without question, you'd have a problem. Then I'd have a problem with that. But this, to me, this isn't that. If he's exerting pressure about Tristan Thompson, everybody thinks that they should re-sign him anyway. It's for the good of the team to win. This isn't about some guy who doesn't play that you're trying to get him a special deal, just because he's got the same agent or buddies with LeBron. It's a completely different situation. Power is swung, and the leverage hammers are swung in a lot of different ways. And if you have it, swing it. But
I understand that.
But to go to your point of if it's a player that maybe you wouldn't think about re-signing and he's forcing you to do it, yes. But to me, that's not this situation. I think everybody believes Tristan Thompson on the Cavaliers is the right move to make.
I agree. So period, new paragraph. If that were to go on, if what we're talking about were to go on, I would understand having a problem with that. I think I would have a problem with it as well. Because it's one thing when you have the power to take advantage of it, but I would complain loudly about a team doing the other thing.
If it's outside of what's best for this team, then I agree with that.
Mike and Mike.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Buck Showalter and the manager of the Baltimore Orioles with us here on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Buck, Mike and Mike, how are you this morning?
Fellas, good morning. Good morning.
The conversation just took a turn, and I'd love to get your thought on it. You know, you came up in the baseball world in an era where rivalries were rivalries, and they extended, you know, out of the stands and onto the field, where guys really didn't hang out with players from other teams and rivals and opponents during the offseason, and clearly that has changed. There's this photo that's all over the place of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony, you know, on vacation together drinking wine, and some listeners are saying, you know what, back in the day that would never have happened. How have you seen that change, and do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing, or an irrelevant thing?
Well, I don't think it's nearly as relevant as we may make it. But you know, there used to be a thing. You've seen a lot of things change with even fraternization during the game. They used to have an umpire sit and stand during batting practice, and he would write people's names that were fraternizing with other players just for the sake of competition with the fans. I mean, now, you know, there's such a. I think the union has a lot to do with it, and I think players. But I don't see it affecting the competition, and that's what really comes down to. It doesn't affect someone's will to win for their team and their teammates and their fans. And I don't know. There's a lot of things that we should probably be looking at other than whether or not the players having a glass of wine with somebody in the offseason. I mean, really, you know, if you really start to think about it, I look at the game and I watch what goes on, and I don't think it affects it.
Completely agree with you, 100%. Years ago, though, do you think rival teams in the off-season players would not want to hang out with anybody else if their paths crossed, if there was genuine dislike?
I think there was. I tell you what happened a lot. I know with me growing up with the Yankees, you know, we played the Red Sox in every farm system. And we played them in the New York Chin League. We played them in the Florida State League. We played them in the Eastern League. We played them in the International League. And your coaches have been with the organization forever and have grown up. And there was a genuine dislike. You were taught to dislike them. Now, is that right? I mean, in today's world, it makes you kind of step back and go, you know, what was really a dislike? We're all just trying to get along and accomplish the same things for yourself professionally and for your families and whatever. But I got to tell you, by the time you got to the big leagues, you had it going on for the Red Sox. There's no doubt about it. I remember in Bristol, where you guys are, the Red Sox were there in the dugouts at Muzzy Field was side by side. You'd get in a fight in the first inning, they'd go on for 9 innings. Back then, they didn't monitor fights in the minor leagues. I mean, you know, you get through with the second skirmish, and the guy that you're skirmishing with is in the dugout 10 feet from you, and there he was. You want him, go get him.
Mike and Buck Showalter. One of the topics we've had working all morning long is about the proliferation of just enormously talented young players in the sport, guys who are 25 and under.
Hey, guys, let me tell you, Mike.
Yeah.
You know, we see the Willie Mays catch in center field, and I have great respect for the players, but everything, you know, this is the greatest every year. Yeah, it's the greatest of this era, but there are plays made every day. Maybe it's because we see them on replay a lot more on TV. I see plays that are made every night, and I go, even Brooks and Robinson talk about Machado, goes, "Fuck, my gosh, the things that he can do at third base." And Brooks is the greatest third baseman a lot of us ever saw. But I see plays every night. We've had outfield plays here in Minnesota the last 2 games, most of them against us, where I just shake my head and say, my gosh, what a play.
And obviously you're talking about Manny Machado and one of those young players. Is this the best? There are 18 players who are 25 or under in the All-Star game, which ties a record. Is this the best you've ever seen the sport for young star talent at any one time?
Yeah, I'm so careful to say the best. This is the best I've ever seen. That was the greatest game I've ever seen played. But I tell you, it'd be hard. I'd like to have somebody, and I'm sure somebody can come up with a group. But, you know, people want to critique the system for the All-Star game. But, you know, instead of giving it some credit, you know, there's a way for the fans to get who they want to see in the game. Then there's a way for the statistical guy who's overpowered the game to get in there. Okay, and then there's a way for the players to have a voice to get their guys in there. And then there's a way for the manager at the end of the day to say, I'd like to have this guy to help win the game because the game means something in the World Series. So, there's a lot of ways to basically reward guys and have every faction have input on how they get there.
One other thing, Buck, we were talking about was actually these young players and the size of players. We compared the 75 Steelers to a current NFL team now. We compared the 75 Cincinnati Reds to the Reds now and players over 200 pounds. And we understand steroids had something to do in all those sports about it. But for the most part, players are just bigger and faster now. It doesn't mean they're better, but bigger and faster. So over your decades in the league, how have you seen these players grow, and what do you think is the main reason for them just looking like better athletes nowadays?
Mike, let's look at it this way. Medicine's gotten better over the years. Cars have gotten better over the years. I can go on and on about things like that. They should in society, and anything that hasn't gotten better, we should question about what we're doing. I think the training methods, let's face it, and I'll tell you this, we're getting tested more than ever before. Hey, I was pretty proud. I got tested the other day. I was walking around my chest with my chest stuck out. I mean, these guys, we got tested I think 3 times on the last 6-game road trip, last trip. And it's, so let's kind of slow that down a little bit. But I think the human body's gotten better. I think the training methods, I think the way these guys, the nutrition, I've seen the clubhouse food and the nutritional food in the clubhouse has completely changed. I've seen there is no real off season. These guys take about 2 weeks off and they start getting ready. And we're also quickly to confuse change with a lack of respect for tradition. If you don't think things like that have gotten better, but they should have gotten better. But I think parents are a lot more in tune. We talk about trouble I have with travel ball and the year-round baseball. We know that's not good for the human body. But let's give some guys some credit. I think the game's being taught pretty well too in the amateur level. Even though there's some things I like to see them do differently. I think the guys come, but they come so fast that you can't assume anything. They come through the minor leagues so fast compared to the way it used to be. We all, these are the good old days in a lot of ways. We live so much saying, we're all guilty of it. Remember back when we did this, and back then that was the way it should have been. We'll be talking, Manny Machado will be talking about the good old days to his guys and talking about that group. So, I do try to live in the present with it, and it's fun to watch. I got a great seat every night.
That's a very interesting division you're in. You'll be battling it out, and we'll see you hopefully in Cincinnati this week, if not sometime soon after that. Thanks, Buck. Always appreciate the time.
All right, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Buck.
Buck
Great
Showalter, manager of the Orioles. Oh, absolutely.
Been around the game so long, yeah.
And we ran out of time, but look at that division. Like 5 games separate the top from the bottom with 5 teams to battle it out to the end, and we'll see who makes the move between now and the end of July. We're back with the final votes on Mount Rushmore next on Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Okay, so the final voting, we'll close it here on the voting for our listeners. And I will say the final votes on the Mount Rushmore, it was very close from 4 to 5. And obviously, that step is a doozy.
Yes, it is.
There is no 1, 2, 3, or 4. There's no differentiation there. It's not an order. It's a Mount Rushmore. But the step from 4 to 5 is a big one. And our audience, Bryce Harper just misses. Bryce Harper is in 5th place. And then somewhat distantly behind him are Neymar, Missy Franklin, Odell Beckham Jr., Connor McDavid, and Chris Bryant. So they got some support. They rounded out the top 10, but they weren't close. Number 4, and so on the list, is Jordan Spieth. Number 3 on the list is Mike Trout. Number 2 on the list is Andrew Luck. And number 1, and by a wide margin, 38% of people who voted used his name, Anthony Davis. So our listeners, the Mike and Mike listeners, Mount Rushmore is Anthony Davis, Andrew Luck, Mike Trout, and Jordan Spieth. Of those 4, Mike, how many do you have on your Mount Rushmore?
I have 2. I have Anthony Davis and Andrew Luck. Anthony Davis was our first lock. We completely agree on that. Andrew Luck, the whole idea of it being football and the injuries, but they are protecting quarterbacks more than ever. I think this guy, just came into the league with the most important. He has the physical tools, but just an incredible high football IQ. It's like a coach on the field. That's not going anywhere right now. I think he is going to stay healthy, at least that's what I'm banking on, and I think he is, without question, a future Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks to play, given time. We'll see what happens team-wise and accomplishment-wise, but that's not what this is about. Because with Anthony Davis, I'm not projecting 5 championships with him. We're just talking about how good the player is going to be. And I think the sky is the limit for an Andrew Luck, so I am putting him in there.
Okay, so that you go quickly. Your 4 are?
My 4, Anthony Davis, Andrew Luck. Baseball, Mike Trout, it's hard to go away from him, but I'm going with Carlos Correa. I am. I know you're going to yell at me for that because we have 27 games, but I just 20 years old, and again, this is for 10 years down the road, so I'm putting him on there. And while I brought up Katie Ledecky, who was just dominant in her events, again, world record in 400, 800, 1500 long course free, and has medals from the Olympics and is 2 years younger than Missy Franklin, I'm going to go with Missy Franklin and the more versatility of events. I think she's going to be unbelievably successful. So was Ledecky. And I know you mentioned 2 people in a sport being close, but you can say the same thing about baseball. You can say that about Trout and Bryce Harper, that they're right by one another. So that doesn't make me not want to pick one over the other. So while Ledecky could potentially, in my eyes, because I love swimming beyond this, I'm going to go with Missy Franklin. All right. So Anthony Davis, Andrew Luck, Carlos Correa, and Missy Franklin.
So you talked me out of Missy Franklin. I had Missy Franklin on my list all morning long. I took her off because of what you said.
Which I don't understand why, because baseball players are close like that as well.
Because to me, in an individual sport like that, you have to just be uniquely dominant to make a list like this. You have to be Michael Phelpsian. And if she winds up winning 4 gold medals at the next Olympics and Katie Ledecky wins 3, then she really didn't dominate that much.
But my thought will be she will be the most decorated women's swimmer of all time in these 10 years. So to me, that has got to be going forward because it doesn't count what she's already done. I guess that's true. It could count what she's already done. Yeah. Together,
well, no, you talked me out of her. She's gone.
Okay.
I've got Anthony Davis. I've got Andrew Luck. I'm going to put Bryce Harper just because you didn't.
So Mike Trout didn't make it unless you went with 2 baseball
on
players.
Either of our lists. No, and I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth just for fun because I love golf and I want to put a golfer on there.
I feel like we need to apologize to Mike Trout because the dude is a stud. He's 24? 23? He's going to turn 24 in a month? We just left him off this list.
Yeah, he's doing okay. I think he'll be all right. Anyway, those are our Mount Rushmores, and we thank you for contributing all morning long. This was fun.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNRadio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.